I did it. I bought into the Dan Pompei article years ago when he every day take notes about himself because you just watched him.
Sure.
Someone told me yesterday, they're like, yeah, man, I hear in the building, Josh just struggles to relate and talk with players and staff. And you go, so he's a Patriot guy. Because the number one thing the Patriot guys struggle with is human fucking interaction. And I started thinking, did you at all see any of the clips of Mike McDaniel after the Tua? Because, his concussion, he got rattled in the game, but it didn't come out until the next day.
Right.
When he went in the protocol. Again, not an ideal situation to be as a coach, especially given with a sensitive topic. It's like, and his cadence of his voice is kind of like Elon. It's like stops and then it goes and then it stops and then it goes. But it's just Mike's can handle himself. I think Saleh, when it comes to talking to the public about Zach Wilson, which is not an easy situation, just the whole debacle, is fucking phenomenal at it. LaFleur has dealt with some crazy shit right in Green Bay and just handled it like very impressively. I think McVay, people think I'm crazy. I think what he's done this year, who's he playing with? That game, I didn't watch much of it. I just walked by the TV one time and looked at the score. He has done an incredible, like the Shanahan guys and obviously Kyle, just pretty high level group of human beings. And these Patriot fucking guys are borderline losers when they have to deal with just other humans, which last time I checked in football, pretty important. And Josh McDaniels took over a team that won 10 games after someone killed someone, a coach got fired, which is one of the crazier in-season firings we've ever seen. And everyone's like, God, this is an incredible job. Then you trade for Devontae Adams, one of the better non-quarterbacks in the entire league, any position, high character guy, and you're just a complete, utter laughingstock. It's crazy how terrible Josh McDaniels has been.
Well, don't forget, like, Josh has been crazy other places, right? We can't just blame the Raiders on the
That's what I'm saying.
On Josh. The Broncos situation was bananas. He disappeared. He just disappeared on the Colts after hiring a defensive coordinator. And it really goes to your point. Jason Lockenfora, January 16th, 2017. Huge news. Josh McDaniels very unlikely to take the 49ers job. Set to bow out from consideration. McDaniels gave the situation much consideration, and his dropping out is not a reflection on them, just a personal decision. Now, the Niners would go on in 2017 to hire Kyle Shanahan. We'd have to go back and check the timelines and check the reporting. Ask Mike Silver, maybe. Did Josh McDaniels back out because he heard Mike Shanahan was the front runner for the job? Didn't feel like that at the time, right?
Mike?
Kyle.
Remember Mike was interviewing.
Mike was in the mix too. He probably did an interview with Papa.
Roman
maybe didn't actually.
Feels like they've mended fences as family.
Yeah. But that's it, right? Would you agree? At the time, it did not feel like Josh was backing out because he was. Sometimes guys back out. Like Jason Garrett put out the tweet a few weeks ago, like, I am no longer considering Stanford. It's like, yeah, I don't think you were getting the job. But I look forward to being back on NBC.
Would you say Jason, like they were going with Troy Taylor, not Jason Garrett?
I don't think, they were not. I don't think they were hiring Jason Garrett.
I agree.
So it didn't feel like this was that, right? With hindsight, again, someone could refresh my memory on this, but it did not feel like Josh was backing out because Kyle was taking it.
I've been told pretty reliably that he was the Yorks and just the operations number one choice, which is not crazy. He has been the number one choice for a long period of time because time heals all wounds. And when you're away from the position, it was different because he was an assistant coach, and obviously they were rattling off Super Bowls. They basically had a separate dynasty, right? When he went back and became the offensive coordinator, him, Tom, Edelman, and Gronk. They won 3 Super Bowls over that period of time. And he became the apple of everyone's eye, a lot like Gruden on television. Again, like I said, one guy's on TV, one guy's a coordinator. But we forgotten about how ugly Tampa was at the end, and then how Denver was like an all-time level, like Urban Meyer, kind of weird, crazy hatred. It was nuts. I mean, it was wild.
No Patriots guy had ever gone away, come back after failing, and then, recuperated, gotten his strength back up, and then gone, right? Back out to be head coach again. We haven't had a Patriots guy, I don't think, do that. We've had guys
leaving. Patricia and Judge will not fall into that category.
Patricia, yeah. Daboll was Daboll there multiple times just before he got a head coaching job. It's not quite.
Yeah,
the same.
but yeah, and then he left to be a coordinator with the Bills. Like you're saying, like gone back to be a coordinator again and then leave. They've never done this situation.
Gone back after like being in the outside world, kind of seeing the world, maybe understanding how the Patriots world is different than the outside world, coming back with that knowledge, incubating, and then going back out into the world. And it turns out nothing's changed.
How do you take a guy like, here's what I don't understand. Is Derek overrated? Is he underrated? Everyone can have their opinions.
It's hard to even know anymore because there's
it really is.
Very.
He can play well. He can play well and have games and stretches where he's a really good player, where he's a top 10 quarterback. He can also have games where he looks like a bottom 5 quarterback. Like he can have embarrassing games. And he's not very good in the cold. Like that's not disputable. That part of like, if you would have told me he had a Pro Bowl season and just like listed out the temperatures of games, like that game in fucking frigid conditions in Pittsburgh, I'd be like, I bet it's one of his worst games of the season, right? So he was having a bad season and then he was terrible in the game. Like it's not surprising. He's not going to play well in that environment. It's why if I was the Jets, I would avoid him. Colts make sense. Dome. It's probably, or the Saints. Like he's a good dome. I think he's made for a dome. But he has been pretty consistent over the last like 4 or 5 years. Is just his completion percentage is really high. And Josh gets him, runs his baby, his offense, and he gets worse. Like part of the reason why Kyle would win the coach of the year or why Sirianni would hold on to it. Well, Minshew looks awesome. Won us our last 2 games, kept rolling. Part of why Kyle's getting credit is not, we knew they had a really good roster. It's like, goddamn, he ended up winning 5 straight games with Brock Purdy. Yet you take Derek Carr, who the league, like Vic Tafur wrote, listen, no one acting like the guy's Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, or Josh Allen, but everyone agrees like he's pretty damn good. Like what Kirk Cousins has done in Minnesota the last 3 or 4 years, Derek should be able to do that with just a normal operation. And he was kind of becoming that and had become that the last couple of years. And then Josh gets him and he becomes a scrub. It doesn't, like, Derek can play bad and he deserves responsibility for his poor play. But part of the way football works, like, it's like Nathaniel Hackett, right? Nathaniel Hackett probably stinks. Sucks. Bald guy from Davis. Rough to see him go out. But Russell Wilson was pretty terrible. So independently, like, you can evaluate him separately.
We know Russ gets coaches fired all the time.
I just don't see how Josh isn't one of the – something's off. Something's off. I actually, whenever I see him talk to the press, and you've always said this, and you're right, like, it's you got to be very careful about that. I don't think he comes off as a weirdo. Like, you watch Patricia and Judge sometimes, you're like, I feel like Josh feels like a coach, but clearly something is just way off. Way off. Because this team hasn't just been, he ruined the most important player. He's the quarterback / offensive coordinator, right? That's his baby.
Yeah, I mean, Derek's having his worst year ever. Derek Wright had his worst year.
That's nuts.
Derek played for 5 other coaches. Played for Del Rio. Played for Dennis Allen. Played for Rich Bisaccia. Briefly, Tony Sperano. He played for 5 other coaches. R.I.P. This was his worst year ever. So, like, when we talk about is Derek good enough, all this kind of stuff, Derek's part of the equation of whether Derek's good enough is the team that he plays on. Bad defense, bad special teams. Like, that's been kind of their trademark for a long time, too. Not field goal kicking, but they haven't been good on defense in forever. So
that's a pretty good one.
What's that?
49ers fans need to chant, "We want Carr" this Sunday.
Bring back the old chant. What was once a chant for Dave is now a chant for Derek. That's actually a very good idea.
I part of being a coach, and this is the reason that I'm a big believer in hiring offensive coordinators and offensive-minded guys. It's why that would be the position I hire, is elevating the quarterback. Or when you're handed this, like Kevin O'Connell was handed Cousins. Now, their record, I mean, it's stupid what they're doing. They should have lost last weekend to the Giants. But they have just maintained offensively. They've clearly been better on defense and played well in these tight games. Their offense, when you watch them, just looks like they've kind of looked the last couple of years. Cousins making plays to Jefferson. Running backs are making plays, and Thielen does some shits like he can't run, but he gets open. He scores touchdowns. So if Cousins would have gotten shittier this year, and Jefferson is like, God, what's up here, man? We'd be like, what is Kevin O'Connell doing? But he comes, and they just keep doing it.
Right.
Like that. What wouldn't Josh? You'd be like, well, you're adding Devontae. Jacob's going to have a really good year when he's on the field, and they get dramatically shittier on offense. That's what is why I would bet against Josh McDaniels. Like, imagine if Kyle Shanahan, like, part of, even when things were shitty, it's like, I'm telling you, if you just watch the Niners game, I get they won 3 games, but throughout the season, every single game, a couple times, dude would be wide open. And if CJ Beathard or Mullins or, Jimmy Garoppolo, if they hit him, touchdowns happen. Players would say, like, this guy knows what he's doing. After all these Raider games, like Jacob's blowing up, Devontae's blowing up, it has been a shit show.
If Devontae Adams was on the Packers still, and this coming off season was the season in which he was going to force a trade, he had just watched Josh McDaniels. He wouldn't be forcing a trade to the Las Vegas Raiders, right?
Well,
let's say Derek was still
get benched?
let's say Derek just had the season he had, but he's still the quarterback of the Raiders. If he just watched this unfold,
Derek getting benched?
No, just everything leading up to Derek getting benched. This version of this team. Like, I got to think part of it was like, he thought this is going to be good. We're going to be good. My point is, what was so unique about Devontae becoming a Raider?
Do you blame? I don't blame him from a football standpoint from thinking the roster was good enough.
No, I don't either.
Win 10, 11 games.
Neither. My point is, it was even pretty crazy when Devontae did it to everybody. Like, man, nobody with options goes to the Raiders. It's part of like when Derek always said, I want to be a Raider. It was eye-opening because like nobody with options stays on the Raiders. Like, if you have options,
why would you
leave? Or you never show up. Right?
Well, you don't stay in a relationship if she's toxic, mean to you, doesn't have a job, can't cook, you don't like her, just dysfunction just follows. Like, you break up. Like, most people avoid going to dysfunctional places. Personally, professional jobs, if you're in dysfunctional places and you have options. Now, sometimes if you don't have options, you get stuck. But if you have options professionally or personally, you always want to go your separate ways when you can, right? When dysfunctional, whatever you're involved in is bringing you down. And that's what I would say the Raiders for 20 years have been.
So how are they going to get another guy? How are they going to get another quarterback? How are they going to get an anything? How are they, like, you finally got one guy, Devontae, and it blew up on him. You've had 2 guys basically profess their love. I mean, Max Crosby also, I would say, chose. But Derek has professed his love, did not get the best out of him. You don't think. Devontae chose you, and it blew up on him. How are you as an organization going to get anybody to choose you? I guess you could always argue, as long as you offer the most money, players will choose the place with the money, except they don't offer the most money.
No.
Max Crosby, open market, the Raiders aren't keeping him.
I know, but he had to sign, he's a 4th-round pick.
Understood. I'm just saying, if it were an open market, Max Crosby's not staying because they don't do that.
Well, think about this. JJ, announced his retirement or whatever. I didn't quite realize, like, he's having a pretty good season. He's got 9.5 sacks. Someone said the other day, he's one of the better plays on the field against Tampa. I was having some pops, wasn't super locked into that bad boy. But he's been if he does not retire, he would have a market. I was like, the Niners would probably be interested in him as a defensive lineman, veteran guy. Like, they'd be all over him. Do you wonder if, like, this drove the joy out of him this year? Like, this sucks. Like, does J.J. Watt retire right now if he's on the Cowboys and things are going well and he's having like he's like, I'll sign another 1-year deal with him.
Maybe not.
Playing. But think about Von Miller. It felt Von Miller is like, God, where's he headed? And then he goes to the Rams and the joy happens. I do wonder when you lose and you just see when you're a high-level person and you're around low-level shit and you're stuck, right? That's the thing. Like, in a relationship, you can get a divorce, break up. Most jobs, you can quit. When you're a football player, J.J. Watt in October can't be like, I'm leaving, man. I'm just going to go play somewhere else. He's stuck.
He should have. They could have
stuck.
traded him. It honestly would have been good for him to have said that before the deadline. They could have traded him.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it's hard for, like, high-level guys. Like, they don't like doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that was easy last year for Devontae, the way the whole thing
But
was
I would say
handled.
when it happened with Von Miller, it was a win-win for the organization and for him. And no, there was no bad blood, publicly. Like, it was fine.
That was much easier. But again, the Vic Fangio, Denver wasn't as like an embarrassment, right? When Vaughn left him.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
more just like, we're not going to resign you. This is tough. We got to get some value for you. I do wonder if there are some people in that building. I mean, Jacobs, see some of his comments, like that guy been from Alabama, and you saw last year winning. Is there a team in the league? I mean, it's probably them in Arizona that just feel more like, ugh. Denver a little bit, but I watched Denver a lot this season. They have one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah, I'd say Houston has kind of right. It feels like they've just they're bad, but they're just bad. They're not, after the post Deshaun this year hasn't been dysfunctional, just been normal bad.
Yeah, and they blew it up.
Kind of compete sometimes. And
they have back-to-back years coming up of picks, first rounders. Like Seattle's over after this year with the Russell. Houston has 2 years coming, 23 and 24. They get a lot of ammunition coming from Cleveland. I think third rounders. This thing's just getting started. Like, they blew it up. The Raiders and the Cardinals and Denver, like, these teams didn't blow it up. Like, they were equipped. Like, they were thinking, like, we're going. It's just, it's bad.
the Niners almost got Josh McDaniels still be the coach of the 49ers if they hired him. No.
No.
Is the answer.
No chance. Absolutely none.
Kyle Shanahan is a significantly better coach than Josh McDaniels.
And this is what I said about the Shanahan guys. I don't even think Kyle Shanahan, like, obviously he's at the kind of the cream of the crop, like him and McVay. I think if you looked around, if you ask every general manager in the league, like Robert Saleh or Josh McDaniels, would there be one GM, including Ziegler, maybe he might say it because that's his buddy, who would say Robert Saleh over Josh McDaniels? One.
You couldn't right now because Robert's not just anywhere. He's New York Jets with a first-round quarterback who's gone through drama. Like, Zach hasn't just been not good. It's been off-field drama with him, and it's been drama-free for Robert. Like, I watch his press conferences. I watch his clips. Like, he's not the one on the fire.
Well, Kyle Shanahan is one of the
and
best
they kind
coaches
of
in the
win.
league.
Like, they win more than they should.
Is Josh McDaniels one of the worst coaches in the NFL? Who's not going to get fired, or who hasn't been fired? Like Cliff probably going to get fired, so I wouldn't.
All right, teams, would they change their coach? Buffalo, no. Kansas City, no. Cincinnati, no. Jacksonville, no. Baltimore, no. Chargers, maybe.
But you wouldn't take, like, I would listen. I think
I would take Brandon Staley over Josh.
Yeah, so would they. You would.
Okay. Miami, no. New England, no. Jets, no. Tennessee, no. Pittsburgh, no. Cleveland, no. I'd rather have Stefanski.
Yeah.
Indy, Denver.
Saturday or McDaniel. We saw them play, and Saturday came out victorious, guy. It's just one win.
Houston, again, I don't see any reason why. I mean, everything in the history says Josh McDaniels should be your pick over David Culley, but whatever. Let's say maybe found one.
Lovey.
Huh? Oh, Lovey Smith. Yeah, sorry.
Culley was axed.
Yeah, you would take Lovey. Philly, no. Minnesota, no. Tampa, no. Dallas, no. Giants, no. Football team, no. Seattle, Detroit, Green Bay, Carolina, no. At this point, Steve, like, if you told the Panthers you could swap out Steve Wilkes for Josh, they would say no. They should.